nobody there. Sky is falling, metal rain, chaos mornings, no one's sane. Crumbling towers, streets in flames, forgotten heroes, who knows their names. Broken future, shattered dreams, end of times ain't what it seems.
Hello friends, this is Sam Cheney reporting for Weaponized News. Today's June 17th, 2026. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. Quite a bit of news to get to today. The MOU between America and Iran. I don't know. I haven't seen anything from the White House like an hour ago. It's coming out of Iranian news. I don't know. We'll take a look, but I don't think we can 100% confirm. We're going to take a look at that, the ins and outs of the Iran war, Trump administration at the G7. We're going to take a look at all of this, where we're at, and how are we going to square this circle of bombing Lebanon. We're going to take a look at all this. Foreign Policy magazine, spinoff of the Council on Foreign Relations, says that Iran is a bigger defeat than Vietnam. We'll take a look at that analysis. Quite troubling. We have the gang rape inquiry out of UK. We're going to take a look at that. We have more Epstein reporting. We have economic reporting. Bunch of geopolitical news. And we're going to circle back at the end to Lebanon and Gaza, the whole area, the greater Aardvark Land Project. We'll circle back at the end as per usual and take a look at all those developments. It's also being reported that indeed Elon Musk, Mr. Trillionaire, his AI Grok was used to target Iran. So they've weaponized your friendly chat bot that affirms everything you say, right? Well, it turns out it's fully weaponized, used to kill people. We're going to take a look at that report. We had the report yesterday. They claimed, it's kind of shady report. No video, no proof, but they claimed, right? As the Ukrainians claimed that the Terminator drone was used like 2 years ago autonomously to kill Russian troops. We may have to take another look at that story and see what else we could suss out. Not today, but so AI is, according to numerous reports out there, being used to kill people now. So can and will Skynet become self-aware? I don't know, but they're definitely using it. The military, Department of War here in America, and I'm sure all other countries are going to use it too. They are using this AI to create kill lists and go about killing people on those lists. So AI, it may not be fully self-aware and acting autonomously, but it's feeding the data to the guys pulling the trigger. And that human element may be removed before we know it here now. We're going to also take a look per Fat Bob out there. Shout out to Fat Bob. I did run that question through. Where we at on UN Agenda 2030, according to the kill machine Weaponized Grok? And so we'll take a look at that. Yeah, it says they're not on schedule with it. So we'll take a look at that analysis. Let's get to this day in history. Thank you. I see some people coming online. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this Wednesday. Shout out to Ruckus. Shout out to Mac over there in the YouTube comments. All right, let's get to this day in history, and we'll get to all this news for you. On this day of June 17th, we go back to the year 1579. Francis Drake lands in California. English navigator Francis Drake lands on the coast of California at what becomes known as Drake's Bay for ship repairs, claims area on behalf of Queen Elizabeth and names it Nova Albion. On this day, 1631, Taj Mahal, Mumtaz Mahal dies during childbirth. Her husband, Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan I, then spends more than 20 years building her tomb, the Taj Mahal. And by all accounts, it is quite a feat of architecture. What happened to India? You know what I mean? They could build this, but then they have a whole weird caste system. They're extremely racist, right? But they could build this, but then they're still living in the friggin' dirt, the majority of their country. So, but they built that Taj Mahal all the way back in 1631. So if any of these, quote, minorities, whatever you want to call them, brown people, could ever get their shit together, we'd have a big problem. But they got all their own issues, right? All right, continuing here. 1824, on this day, U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs established here in America to go ahead and put Indians on reservations. 1855, on this day, we saw heavy French and British bombing of Crimea. 2,000 plus killed. So they had to be doing it by what? They didn't have airplanes in 1855, so it had to be like what? Hand bombings? Cannons? 1877, on this day, the Battle of Whitebird Canyon. Indian is part of the Indian Wars. Battle of Whitebird Canyon, the Nez Perce defeat the U.S. cavalry at Whitebird Canyon in the Idaho Territory. On this day in 1894, no, did I skip ahead? I didn't skip ahead. On this day in 1894, the first polio epidemic breaks out in Rutland, Vermont. And that's a giant rabbit hole that everybody should probably go down if you're concerned about public health. The polio there. That's about all I could say about it right now. On this day, 1898, the United States Navy Hospital Corps is established. On this day, 1916, U.S. troops under General Pershing march into Mexico. On this day, 1932, the Bonus Army, around 1,000 World War I veterans, amass at the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., as the U.S. Senate considers a bill that would give them certain benefits. They're trying to get their pay ahead of time because the Great Depression. 19 And they didn't trust the government, which I don't either. And so they thought they might get burned out of it. So, hey, pay me now. You know what I mean? 1939, on this day, sadly, we saw the last guillotining in France. A convicted murderer is guillotined in Versailles outside the prison Saint-Pierre. Maybe we should bring back the guillotine for treason in this country, just saying. They brought back the firing squads, right? The feds say they can execute you by firing squad. Hey, might as well bring back the guillotine as well. On this day in 1950, we saw the first kidney transplant in Chicago, Illinois. 1953, on this day, U.S. Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas stays the execution of spies Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, scheduled for the next day due to their 14th wedding anniversary. And so that was good of old Judge Douglas there. On this day, 1954, CIA Exile Army lands in Guatemala, organized by John Foster Dulles, and the United Fruit Company. So we do love our secret wars here in America. Wasn't me, bro. Wasn't me. But it says right on the munition, made in America. Wasn't me. 1972 on this day, 5 men are arrested after trying to bug Democrat National Committee office in Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. Of course, the Watergate scandal there. On this day, and we have video, this is part of the show for nostalgic purposes. On this day in 1994, O.J. Simpson does not turn himself in on murder charges, forcing L.A. police to chase his Ford Bronco for an hour and a half before he eventually gives up. It was well, we got the video. We'll show a little bit of it. The white Bronco chase there, and we're still looking for the murderer. And if OJ wouldn't have died, he'd still be looking for the real murderer too. All right. And on this day in 2021, Juneteenth was declared. Then U.S. President Joe Biden signs into law the Juneteenth National Independence Act, making June 19th a federal holiday commemorating emancipation. And so doing everything they can to continue to divide this country the way we like it. Can't have segregation, but you can have June 16th. And you can have them jumping up and down about that black kid that stabbed the other white kid, right? Jump up and down about all that. They love that. Hey, they're trying to engineer race riots right now in this country. And so doing everything they can to divide us Americans up by race, religion, and creed on this 250th anniversary of America year. All right, what do we got? Our civil liberties histories here. Few items on our civil liberties history. On this day, June 17th, 1954, Operation Wetback begins. Latinos deported. And I'm not saying it to be offensive or to offend the Mexicans or whatever, Latinos out there, but that was the actual name given to the operation by the federal government. Operation Wetback, a federal immigration enforcement effort to deport Mexicans who had entered the United States illegally, began on this day. The offensive name of the program was symptomatic of the culture and political climate of the times. An estimated 107,000 people were arrested between May and July 1954, and eventually an estimated 1,778,168 people were seized. That's more or about what they can deport today. We're not getting mass deportations out of the Trump administration. The program was marked by abuse. People seized had no opportunity to recover their personal property, and many were left stranded in Mexico without food. Mass roundup and deportation of Mexican Americans has also occurred in the 1930s. Memories of Operation Wetback were revived in 2015, 2016, when Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump said he would build a wall between the United States and Mexico to keep out Mexican immigrants. We're still not getting our mass deportations, and no one who allowed the mass invasion of our country has been held to account. So there you go. We did better there in 1954, actually enforcing our immigration laws in this country. We've come a long way, haven't we? On this day, 1967, Secretary of Defense McNamara authorizes Pentagon Papers. In the midst of the Vietnam War, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara developed doubts about whether the U.S. could win the war. Consequently, on this day, he authorized a secret history of American involvement in Vietnam beginning in the late 1940s. The report, which became known as the Pentagon Papers, finally totaled 3,000 pages of text and 4,000 pages of documents in 47 volumes. Daniel Ellsberg, who had once been a strong supporter of the war, but now was opposed to it, illegally photocopied the papers at the Rand Corporation in Santa Monica, California, where he worked, and leaked it to the New York Times. The Times published an explosive story based on the papers on June 13, 1971, which revealed secrets about American involvement that had been kept from the public. The Nixon administration obtained an injunction against the Times June 15, 1971, and in a historic decision in favor of freedom of the press, the Supreme Court declared the injunction unconstitutional on June 30th, 1971. The Watergate break-ins arrest. On this day, 1972, famous scandal begins. I think we get the gist of it, right? The plumbers, right? The plumbers broke in. They're trying to figure out what the Democrats are doing. And of course, the cover-up is worse than the crime there. On this day in 2012, silent marches protest police stop and frisk policies. Civil rights leaders organized a series of silent marches across the country to protest the police practice of stop and frisk, which they argued targeted young black men. And then finally, on this day in 2016, lost New York City police spying files found in Queens. Over 500 boxes of New York City police political spying files, long thought to be lost, were discovered in a city warehouse in Queens, New York. It was reported on this day the files are regarded as the largest trove of spying files from the 1950s and 1960s to ever become public, according to a story published in the New York Times. The existence of such files had been a matter of controversy in the long period of litigation against the New York City Police Department that ended in the 1970s. It's the whole mother load, said civil rights attorney. The files cover the activities of what was known as the Red Squad, and by the 1970s was known as the Special Services Division. Today is known as the Intelligence Division, according to an index contained in the files. The documents include spying activities against the Black Panther Party, the Nation of Islam, and the Young Lords, a militant Hispanic group. According to the New York Times story, one file was a Catholic lay teacher who was involved in labor negotiations with the Catholic Archdiocese. All right, here's our segue to the news and some nostalgia. The O.J. Simpson chase here now. We'll just play a little bit. O.J. Simpson chase, one of the most surreal, dramatic scenes in live television broadcast history. They were playing the fifth game of the 1994 NBA Finals, the Knicks versus the Chicago Bulls. The Knicks lost that game, and they broke in to coverage of that Finals NBA basketball game to cover old OJ on the run in his white Ford Bronco with AC Callings, right? His college football buddy. The good old days. Can we bring back OJ chases in LA? No, we're still looking for the murderers. As OJ was acquitted because the glove did not fit, but he was found guilty in a civil trial. So this tragic event, what do they call him? The founder there in Austin, Texas of their tech hub died. One of the big tech guys there that brought a bunch of tech to Austin, Texas, died in a plane crash yesterday, along with 6 other people. Let's watch that report. This one's out of Good Morning America. You have audio on there, do we? What's up with the audio? Well, I don't know what happened with oh, there it is. Apologies. I did not have audio going there.
World, Cabo heading to Texas, and now this morning we have this dramatic video. This morning, dramatic video capturing the race to save passengers on board this plane after it crashed onto a Texas highway, killing one person. Flames shooting out of the flipped over Cessna Citation Latitude. Good Samaritans and emergency responders rushing in to help the 6 people on board. A person can be seen in the cockpit as they attempt to smash the window. Smoke billowing out of the opening as it fills the cabin.
It looked like a horror movie.
The private jet had taken off from San Jose del Cabo en route to Austin, but diverted to Laredo when the plane suffered a mechanical issue.
We received a radio call from our local airport tower indicating that they had an aircraft with...
There's been a lot of plane crashes here now recently, right? We had that B-52 down in Southern California crash. This crash, and there was that we showed that Russian plane just literally falling out of the sky. Tragic event there. Here's how Trump celebrates Pride Month at the White House, talking about his love for the Egyptian president.
A friend of mine from day one. You know, I met him early in the campaign when Crooked Hillary and I were running against each other, right? And I was told that the president of Egypt is here. That was a big deal. It's still a big deal for me to be with the great president of Egypt, but not as big as it used to be before I ran. So he was in a hotel, and I met him, and we fell in love, deeply in love.
What the hell? And Trump's not orange here either. His orange spray tan has, I guess he doesn't get that treatment in France at the G7. But it's looking pretty pale there, right? Where's the orange? All right, enough fun. Into the hard news here now. Here's talking about this memorandum of understanding is very important. This is where Trump half jokingly says if it doesn't work out, he's going to blame J.D. Vance, as J.D. Vance has been on the media tour the last couple days here now, trying to explain away our failings there in the Iran war.
Any more? You know, one more. One more? Go ahead, Peter. Let me finish with Peter because he's been better to me than he's been to Biden.
Thank you, President Trump. I have a question about this weekend. Why not stick around for the signing ceremony with this Iran peace deal?
I might.
You might?
Yeah, I might. But I'd rather, this is a memorandum of understanding. It's very important, but it might not be the kind of a document that I should be signing.
There's some element to this where you send the vice president. If it works out, great, you look like a genius for sending him. And if it doesn't work out, it's the vice president's.
I like that idea, sure. Well, this way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a good idea. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Little Marco didn't seem very amused there. But Howard Lutnick, right here, world-class criminal Howard Lutnick, our Commerce Secretary, takes his family vacation and on Epstein Island, was Epstein's next-door neighbor in New York. He thinks everything's hilarious, continues to rob the American people. Little Marco, not so amused. Not so amused. The Secretary of State has, in large part, been removed from these negotiations, at least publicly. And then now here's little hat man Ben Shapiro on the War Channel, Fox News. He seems upset about J.D. Vance as well.
Just from the text, a disaster that does not achieve any of the actual signal goals that were set by the administration at the beginning. There were effectively 5 goals that were set by the administration at the beginning. One was ending the nuclear program, not just nuclear weapons, no nuclear enrichment, zero enrichment. That is not in the deal. Ballistic missiles ended. That is not in the deal, and the president today suggested that ballistic missiles should actually continue to be held by the Iranians because the Saudis, our allies, also hold ballistic missiles. Then you have the support of terrorism. That is not part of the deal. Anything that looks like an attempt to end terrorism. A permanent opening of the Strait of Hormuz toll-free. Not only is that not in the deal appears to have a provision allowing Iran and Oman to attempt to toll the strait after 60 days. And then finally, the idea that Iran would receive some sort of sanctions relief after all of those things happen. We are already seeing from day one relief in their ability to ship oil out of Iran. In my opinion, the Vice President of the United States, the chief negotiator on this particular project, has not well served the president.
They're already trying to shape the narrative to throw Mr. Technocracy J.D. Vance under the bus here now. Not a bad idea. Not for these reasons, but I guess we'll take what we can get at this point. Here's what the White House posted earlier today. Choose your fighter. How about you're all garbage? How about that idea?
Hello, I'm the boss. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Biden was staring off, and then Vanderlei had to go like, dude, what's up? Yeah. How about they're all garbage? The White House is garbage. they posted this on a loop, an hour loop.
I'm the boss. 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 I'm the
An hour loop of that bullshit is posted on the White House X account. More from Trump at the G7. Says for decades, American leaders ignored the Iran problem. Yeah, they've all said that Netanyahu came and tried to sell them the same bullshit that Trump bought, that Iran's going to nuke us in 2 weeks. And they all rejected it, but somehow, some way, Netanyahu was able to convince Trump.
But every administration for decades has sought to get Iran to relinquish its nuclear ambitions, but the threat only got bigger. The words got bigger and bigger and stronger and bigger, and nothing ever happened. And Iran got stronger and tougher. If we didn't blow them up the first time and then blow out those weapons, they would have been unstoppable. This should have been, what I'm doing and what I did, should have been done years ago.
What a load of shit. Here's J.D. Vance on the MOU. He's out there trying to sell it all over the media.
Pakistanis who have been helpful in mediating this agreement with the Iranians. They've asked us not to release the full text for a little while. That it'll come out at the latest on Friday. We're actually trying to push them to get it out today because we want to tell the American people what's in this deal. It's fundamentally a good deal for the American people, but it's also very simple, and I've also seen some misrepresentations about it. So in short, what it does is it opens the Strait of Hormuz immediately. This is why you see oil prices down in the 70s from a high in the 120s, is because you're seeing the strait already open its traffic to the flow of oil and gas. It also provides a framework whereby if
that narrative doesn't, and I honestly didn't do the deep research on it, but that narrative doesn't make sense because they claim none of American oil even comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So why the hell are our gas prices so high here? Oh, Rockefeller oil oligarchs saw the opportunity to price gouge us, is what it looks like on the surface.
the Iranians give us what we need on stopping the funding of terrorism, on no longer pursuing a nuclear weapon, then they can get some benefits, be reinvited into the world economy. And when I say benefits, I'm talking about sanctions relief on their economy. We've destroyed their nuclear program, but one of the things the president is trying to do is give them the incentive not to try to rebuild that program for the long haul, so that it's not just us. We don't have to worry about Iran having a nuclear weapon for the next couple of years, but for the next generation, that generation doesn't have to worry about it either.
Wasn't worried about it. Wasn't worried about it. The ultimate one up would be now Iran turn around and nuke Aardvark land, right? If any of that's even possible, and we continue to talk about on this show that if thermonuclear holocaust as portrayed in Hollywood was real, it would have already happened with these psychopaths in charge. So I think the destruction capability of nuclear weapons has largely been a fairy tale.
When I say permanently, it should be permanently. But if it's not permanently, we will bomb them. They will be bombed, just like I bombed them on Wednesday night and Tuesday night, and was going to bomb them on Thursday night at a level that was 3 times greater, and they knew that. I will bomb them. Now, that's with me as president. If you have a weak, pathetic president, maybe that doesn't happen, but I can only do the job that I have to do. I have a long time to go.
We calculated rough calculation yesterday. It cost us $33 million per dead Iranian civilian. Not very efficient war there, to say the least. President Trump to Aardvark land, Hezbollah, and Lebanon. He said, I think they could do better with respect to Hezbollah when 2 drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut. He's talking to old Bibi there. They could behave better, and frankly, they could do a better job. And that's got all the Zionists jumping up and down. Well, you saw little Ben Shapiro almost choked on his little hat there. So they're all pissed off, so that's good, but in large part, it's an act, right? Sure it is. I feel, and hey, maybe we have to report Trump to the ADL. I don't know what to get him back in line, what we got to do, but I feel very bad for Lebanon. He said for the last 50, 60 years, they have been just trashed. They have been living in hell. That's just not true. They're living in hell when they're being bombed. Trump said Aardvark Land has been a good partner, but has responded disproportionately to some Hezbollah-related incidents and should handle the fight differently. He was later asked if he wants Aardvark Land to halt its military campaign in Lebanon. He responded, no, but I do want them to use better judgment. How are we going to have this peace deal when they keep bombing Lebanon? More from Trump. They said, this is about trying to get, Trump's trying to get Syria president, former Al-Qaeda ISIS guy in Syria. He's trying to get them to be a proxy army, essentially, to fight Hezbollah. And I think we have a little bit more reporting later in the show. But Ahmed al-Shara, president of Syria, is like, dude, I can't go blow up Hezbollah and then fight in Lebanon on behalf, because then that's going to blow all his credit, all his street cred with the Muslims, because then he would be de facto proxy army for Aardvark Land and America. So he's like, probably not, right? But that's what they're floating and trying to get him, trying to pressure him into attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon via Syria. They already tried that with the Kurds. Now they're trying it with Syria. Nobody wants to be your proxy army, dude, especially with the Muslims. Here's Trump's transgressions against Aardvark Land. So this is probably deserves a report to the ADL.
And you'll see that when you see the agreement, but it's appropriate that we release the agreement. And we did send a copy to Israel, by the way. They've been a good partner. Again, I think they could do better with respect to Hezbollah. I'm not saying they shouldn't protect themselves. I'm saying when two drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down.
I read you the readout of that, but yeah. So what is Bibi going to do about this? It's all show, obviously. Well, they're threatening to do a false flag is what they're going to do. Here's old Laura Loomer, foreign agent. She says, she posted on the X, she says, Aardvark Land or where's her actual quote here? We are sitting ducks for the next 9/11. Part of me thinks the next 9/11 will be done with drones. And I saw other secret spies out there floating this idea as well, that we're going to be attacked by drones here in America.
아, 우리 테레비ないです。だってあれが機能しないって結構機能しないところが多いんじゃない？何が？
だってワークレインが今してないでしょ。
してないって言ってた。
だからコーンエディソンとかあれ言ったじゃん、あそこ
ねえ、ズームすると中余裕燃えてるね、まだ。
これ望遠で見えるの。
She, he, them, they, whatever it is, saw, right? A freak show Laura Loomer essentially threatening us with drone attacks. There's a systemic campaign to kill journalists by Aardvarkland. They're still not letting in foreign journalists into Gaza to report independently. So it's real bad. They're bombing refugees in tents in Gaza, like today, like every other day. This whole weirdness. Here's Trump greeting again for the 20th time Macron and his wife here. And I forget that the claims that Bridget Macron is a transgender man. Forget all these crazy claims. What about the fact we can prove that she was his teacher? She was Emmanuel Macron's teacher and was having an affair with him at least when he was under 18 years old. I know they're way loose about it in France, but hey, that's straight up pedophilia. And it looks like she, he, them, they, whatever the hell it is, it has been his handler, and he's a victim of the MK Ultra mind control program with that, whatever it was, as his teacher, abusing him as a youth. Now they're married. So it kind of feels like all this them, they talk is a diversion from the fact that 100%, she was his teacher. He was underage. They had a relationship. Now he's the freaking president of France. Nobody talks about that very much. Who, when elected, I remember way back, was it probably 10 years ago, whenever he was elected, he came out and said, I'm the Sun King. I remember reporting, I was like, wow, that's pretty bizarre. I thought you're king. I thought you were president of France and not the Sun King. But people could go look up those old reports where he declared himself the Sun King. Anyhow, here's the weird, and see if we could spy a secret society Freemason handshake here. I don't know. All these people are just so freaking weird. They don't represent Joe Blow in France, Joe Blow in America. They're weird, man. They're all in a cult, all right? And they don't represent us whatsoever. Okay, on to this. We got a summation here of this big article out of Foreign Policy magazine. Let me read through it here, the summation at least, and it's beyond the paywall, but I'll post the free version on Weaponized News Substack so you could read the full article. Here it is. Iran is a bigger defeat than Vietnam. A war of choice has turned into a strategic disaster for Washington. And this was written by a professor of government at Georgetown University in Qatar, Paul Musgrave. Let's take a look at this. Let me go through the summation here now. Musgrave argues that the United States' defeat in the recent war against Iran represents a strategic calamity, far surpassing the failure in Vietnam. While the Vietnam War resulted in significantly higher U.S. casualties, nearly 60,000, and like over 1 million dead Vietnamese as well. I added that, but that should also be considered, considering we only killed 3,500 Iranian civilians at the cost of $33 million per dead Iranian. Anyway, that's my side commentary. Let me get back to this. Nearly 60,000 U.S. GIs compared to fewer than 20 in the war on Iran. Musgrave contends that the long-term geopolitical consequences of the latter are much more severe. He observes that while Vietnam was a cultural stain, it ultimately had a little impact on broader U.S. strategic goals, whereas the current defeat has left the United States in a fundamentally weaker position with its core strategic objectives harmed. Despite the technical superiority of U.S. weapons, the war exposed a shallowness of U.S. arsenals and the limitation of kinetic solutions. Musgrave notes that rather than installing a palatable client in Tehran, i.e. regime change, didn't happen, the war strengthened the hard-line elements of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Furthermore, Iran forces demonstrated the ability to penetrate U.S. defense systems, while the lasting image of U.S. high-tech combat remains the blood-splattered school bags of Iranian girls killed in the Minab school massacre. A critical difference identified by Musgrave is the inability of the United States to simply exit the region as it did in Southeast Asia. The global economy is now inscriptably linked to the Gulf supply chains of hydrocarbons, helium, fertilizer, aluminum, etc. All these different inputs, right? The raw material inputs that you don't see, but we see now when you block the Strait of Hormuz. He goes on to say the potential weaponization of the Strait of Hormuz poses grievous harm to world commerce and marks the failure of a core U.S. objective, freedom of navigation, that has stood for over 2 centuries. Ultimately, he concludes that this, quote, war of choice has eroded U.S. leadership, leaving allies with less confidence and rivals more likely to challenge Washington's authority. And again, I'll post a full article at Weaponized News Substack. And what is Iran having to say about all this? Well, Baghdadi, the foreign minister spokesman, he said the lifting of Iran's oil sanctions begins today. Iran's oil sanctions must be lifted, not just on paper, but with all its requirements. Iran must be able to sell its oil, transportation, and insurance should not face problems, and the revenues from oil sales must also be received. The lifting of Iran's oil sanctions starts today and will continue during the negotiations. And they put out, I've seen MOUs in American media, in Iranian media. I'm waiting till we get it from the White House. Maybe they put it out. It's the last hour, 2 hours here. It's still, I'm not even going to read it all to you because there's reports now. The U.S. version and the Iranian version are not the same, right? So when we get confirmation that Washington and Tehran both agree on the text of the MOU, which is just an agreement to sit down and talk for 60 days based on the stipulations in the MOU. Once we get 100% confirmation that both sides agree this is the actual text of the MOU, then I will actually bring that forth to you and report it probably tomorrow, it looks like. But as of right now, there's still back and forth and not agreement between Iran and U.S. media on the actual text of the MOU. Let me tell you who's really pissed off. It would be Aardvark on Smotrick. And so this is how are we going to get this peace deal? Smotrick says there will be no withdrawal from Lebanon, not by Friday and not after Friday. We are preserving the IDF's full freedom of action in Lebanon. Smotrick says operation forces will ignore the U.S.-Iran deal. Iran keeps saying you got to tell your bulldog Aardvark land stop killing Lebanese, stop the occupation of southern Lebanon. Seems like a kind of a big deal here. So to me, it seems like it's still all up in the air based on what if Aardvark land, and they keep saying it, all their Ben Gvir, Smotrick, Bibi, Katz, they've all said we're continuing on with our program. And so America, we need to cut ties with these maniacs already. They're just dragging us down, dragging us down, dragging us down. I know they founded America, according to Mike Huckabee, but we got to cut ties with these psychos already. We've already lost too much here now for them. And they refuse to be peaceful. We've already gone through the whole routine of their freaking bloodthirsty megalomania to build out the greater Aardvark land project. We don't want nothing to do with it here in America, man. Okay, continuing here. This is allegedly and they don't show his face, but apparently, I don't know, he doesn't have a rainbow patch on his freaking outfit here. Remember, they kept calling him faking gay and blowing up, half his face is blowing up, his legs blowing up, all this to smear old Supreme Leader Khomeini. Of course, son of old man Khomeini. Was it second son, I do believe. But here's the first public image that Iran has released of IRGC Commander-in-Chief Major General Hossein Samali and Supreme Leader Khomeini. Right there. So I guess that's proof of life, allegedly, but who knows, right? Who freaking knows? Gollyboff, we know he's alive still. Reports he's on was he Speaker of Iranian Parliament. Reports he's on the kill list. How many we killed? Over 50 of their top Iranians. I guess that's worth 30. But we're talking about dead civilians costing 33 million. I guess we got to do a separate analysis. How much did it cost to whack these top Iranians in their government? That'll be a separate analysis, I suppose, as compared to Joe Blow, Iranian civilian. Obviously, a lot higher value targets. But anyhow, Gollyboff is still alive here now. And he says, my premise and my pessimism and distrust toward the United States is greater than anyone else's. I don't know why. They just whacked the guy next, all the guys that were standing next to him a couple months back. Even if trust in Trump, bro. Don't be a panicking, Gollyboff. Come on, man. Even if there is a final agreement and it is approved by a United Nations Security Council resolution, they're still hanging on to, bro, America don't follow no international law or whatever UN says, the neoliberal world order, all that. Nah, we don't follow that here, bro. We're cowboys and we're taking over the world because we have an empire to maintain And the Department of War has told us we're building out the Greater North America project here. So, yeah, United Nations Security Council resolution, that'll mean jack to America, as has been shown here now. And we have the veto on the UN Security Council anyway, on top of that, right? So that literally means jack, but they're still trying to hold on to some type of diplomacy through the United Nations. But he says, he does admit, though, he says it's still not trustworthy, even if we get a UN Security Council resolution. Our guarantee is Iran's power. So he's starting to, yeah, well, that's what America's all about. Hezbollah leader Naim Qasim, this dude with the big hat, right? One side has the little hats. These guys got the big hats. He even has a white hat. Hezbollah leader says we did not allow Aardvark Land to achieve the Greater Aardvark Land project. We have broken it. I'd have to argue they're still working on it. It's still a work in progress. And according to all their statements, yeah, it's still ongoing here now. If the resistance and its people had not stood firm, Lebanon would not have been saved. Little premature there, Hezbollah man, I would say. All right, we've got more of that reporting in the geopolitical section of the show. Where are we at? We're almost at the hour. Let's see. We're in the sex abuse section, how horrific all of this is. We'll get to a couple of these reports and take a look at this big, the big gang rape inquiry report out of the UK. But first here now, it's being reported that P. Diddy out there running his own, for, I guess for the black people, for the hip hop culture, running their own Epstein program of all this compromise and sex abuse. But his prison sentence has been reduced now from his original release date was April 15th, 2028. It's now been reduced down to February 23rd, 2028. So what, he got like 2 months shaved off of his prison sentence there. I'm sure he appreciates that. So he can get out and abuse some more youth here in America. This guy, what do you even say, man? Why do these people have to all just be degenerate scum? You know what I mean? And they just one after another. I guess that's the type of person that wants to work for the crime syndicate known as the government. Scandal engulfs Trump's MAGA warrior on election eve. Mega church pastor's red hot text to Miss Oklahoma, and furious wife's vile accusations that shatters family man image. Why? Just like, that's a report out of the Daily Mail. This character right here out of Oklahoma, cheating or trying to cheat on his wife with Miss Oklahoma there. And the text came out, and it's just, man, we got to have the worst scumbags ever, right? We wouldn't have it any other way. All right, let's take the live commercial break here now. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button, please. It does help with the algorithm. The likes do help. The subscriptions definitely help. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop. Pick yourself up a holograph sticker. We have the holograph sticker, all the colors of the rainbow for Pride Month. We'll have it after Pride Month as well. The white background sticker and the clear sticker. We have a new one. This is the demo model, but a clear background, white background, and the holograph sticker. You can pick those up at weaponizednews.com/shop. We have baseball caps, t-shirts, coffee mugs, shot glasses, as this show is known to induce heavy bouts of drinking. So we accommodate that with Weaponized News shot glass. And I'm going to have to get one so I could give you a live demo of it. Check out all of those items at weaponizednews.com/shop. We take donations as well. Buy me a coffee, Bitcoin wallet address, Cash App. Links are all in the description below this video. Become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News Substack. We give away everything free there, but show your support for independent reporting and analysis, brought to you 5 days a week, broadcasting live, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern, on all these 8 channels we're on here now. Also, if we're ever cut off one channel or there's a bug or whatever happens, the links to all our channels are in the description below this video as well. If you're looking for Weaponized News, unless they shut off the whole internet, we're probably going to be on one of these channels, at least hang on Odysee and Bitchute probably, even if we're banned or whatever happens, right? All of that. But become a paid subscriber at Weaponized News on the Substack. I give away everything free. There's no paywall, but show your support for this broadcast that way. Weaponized News Substack. We're streaming live there now. You'll get the full show, a summary of the show, and links to almost everything we talk about for documentation and further research purposes at Weaponized News Substack. Again, it's all free. It's all free. But we do appreciate the patrons to the store, the donors, and the paid subscribers, also the free subscribers. However you may choose to support us is truly appreciated. Thank you very much out there. And I did make a trip to my snail mail physical mailbox. I haven't made it over there in a while for numerous reasons, many of which are the high price of gasoline here in California. But I did make it over there and got some mail from Pam, and she had suggested a guest. And so, Pam, if you're out there on the Rumble, I got your card, and I do appreciate your card. I do appreciate the snail mail. And so I will try to contact that recommended guest and have them on. And also, Mac, thank you very much for the correspondence through the snail mail. I guess I shall, do I have here's my snail mail address. If anybody wants to send hate mail, I would like money better than anything, or checks. If you want to write a check, write it to Abazaba Enterprises, LLC, or you want to send whatever, a greeting card. Pamela, thank you very much. Guest suggestions, whatever it may be, you can mail me there at the snail mail address at the bottom of the screen. All right. Thank you for your attention to that matter. Welcome back to the second half of Weaponized News on this Wednesday, June 17th, 2026 edition. Okay, let's get into this horrible, gruesome report about, what's it called? It's called the Rape Gang Inquiry. They're out of the UK. Quite horrific. Quite horrific. Do we even have anything to preface this? Let me preface this. A privately funded inquiry organized by Rupert Lowe's Restore Britain Party has accused British authorities of allowing organized child sexual exploitation networks to operate across the country for decades. Jimmy Savile? No, this is a different operation, but it's kind of their thing, right? Kind of their thing. Jimmy Savile, King Charles' best friend, had a freaking key to Buckingham Palace, abused sick kids, dead kids. There's reports he was into necrophilia, having sex with dead children at UK hospitals. Yeah, it's dark to go down the Jimmy Savile rabbit hole, let me tell you. Anyhow, long history there of child sexual abuse in the UK. But back to this specific report now. Allowing organized child sex exploitation networks to operate across the country for decades, claiming that political sensitivities reportedly took precedent over protecting vulnerable girls. The 219-page rape gang inquiry report is not an official government investigation and did not possess statutory powers to compel witnesses or evidence. Instead, it draws on survivors' testimony, whistleblower accounts, court records, previous inquiries, and expert evidence gathered during hearings organized by Restore Britain. The report examines Britain's rape gang scandal, a series of cases uncovered in towns and cities across England in which groups of men, largely of Pakistani Muslim heritage, sexually exploited underage girls, often over many years. Previous official investigations in places like Rotherham, Rochdale, Oxford, and Telford found repeated failures by police, social services, schools, and local authorities to intervene despite numerous warnings. According to the report, those failures were not isolated incidences, but part of a nationwide pattern. The inquiry claims to have identified evidence of grooming gang activity in at least 149 local authority areas across the United Kingdom, and argues that organized networks use similar methods regardless of location. Among the report's key findings are grooming gangs operated across much of Britain rather than in a handful of notorious towns. Victims were commonly targeted with gifts, alcohol, drugs, and attention before being trafficked and repeatedly abused by groups of men. Police, social services, schools, health authorities, local councils repeatedly failed to act on warning signs and, in some areas, treated victims as the problem rather than the perpetrators. A disproportionate number of offenders in major grooming gang cases were of Pakistani Muslim heritage, a pattern the report says authorities were reluctant to discuss openly. Fear of accusations of racism and concerns about community relations contributed to inaction from authorities. Both Labor and conservative governments failed to address the problem adequately, despite years of evidence and public warnings. The report recommends tougher sentences for organized child sexual exploitation, mandatory recording of offender ethnicity, greater accountability for public officials who fail to act, and the deportation of foreign nationals convicted of such crimes. How about a wood chipper? How about that? Here's a report. The whole report will be posted at Weaponized News Substack. Quite horrific by all accounts. And so there's the full report. And I'm going to give you a summation here now. Another summation. Key findings in the report: scale and pattern of the crimes, at least 250,000 victims, likely even more than that, with crimes documented in 149 plus local authority districts, 40% of UK districts, plus additional counties. Perpetrators operated organized networks involving taxis, takeaways, flats, hotels, and trafficking between towns. Tactics included befriending vulnerable girls, often from broken homes, in care or with issues like self-harm, supplying them with alcohol, drugs, grooming via gifts and attention, then repeated gang rape, torture, quote, red rooms, filming for blackmail, violence, forced abortions, pregnancies, and sometimes trafficking abroad or forced Islamic marriages. Victims were frequently demeaned as white trash, kafir, or inferior. Demographics: 87% of convicted offenders in group-based CSE had distinctively Muslim names. Estimates up to 95% Muslim, predominantly Pakistani heritage, with a little bit of Somalis in there as well. This far exceeds the Muslim population share. Crimes trace back to the 1950s, post 1948 British Nationality Act, but escalated with mass immigration from the 1970s onward, especially post 1997. Cultural religious drivers. The report links patterns to honor, shame, clan cultures, and specific Islamic doctrines, analyzed in depth by experts. Muslim superiority, Quran verses, loyalty to Muslims, male dominance over women, low or no age of consent in traditional interpretations, views of non-Muslim girls as permissible for exploitation, and parallel Sharia norms. These provided justifications and community protection against reporting this mass crime. Institutional failures: catastrophic across police, ignored reports, criminalized victims, destroyed evidence. So the police are working with the Muslim rape gangs that are in UK essentially here now, according to this report. Destroyed evidence, social services placed girls in danger, undermined parents, retaliated against whistleblowers, National Health Service treated injuries, STDs, pregnancy without safeguarding. Schools ignored abuse, obvious abuse, taxi license renewed permits for perpetrators, and politics suppressed ethnicity data, blocked inquiries, prioritized multiculturalism. Both major parties criticized, the Labour and Conservative parties there in the UK. Yeah, because the government's a crime syndicate, and I don't give a damn about your surface fake political ideologies. That's for Joe Blow citizen to believe in. The government don't give a damn about any of that. That's your Masonic stage play called politics here. Maybe somehow, some way, Joe Blow UK, Joe Blow America, Joe Blow around the world will wake up to how we're being played by the crime syndicate known as government. Continuing here, testimonies highlight profound trauma, lifelong PTSD, physical injuries, self-harm, substance abuse issues, distrust of authorities, and secondary victimization by the system. Many cases involve children in care or from unstable homes. Conclusions and recommendations: demand data recording on ethnicity, religion, stronger laws, specifically CSE Act with Sammy's Law for victim criminal records, deportations, institutional accountability, mandatory training, family involvement and safeguarding, and cultural immigration reforms. It calls for prosecutions, evidence preservation, and eradication of networks. A concluding message from Lowe in the report emphasizes immigration as a root cause and need for decisive action. And then here's the top 10 key points from the report. Mass scale of victimization, tens of hundreds of thousands of primarily white British girls as young as 11 years old, subjected to organized rape, gang rape, trafficking, torture, and exploitation over decades in nearly 40% of UK localities. Perpetrator demographics, overwhelmingly Muslim men, were running this gang rape operation. 87 to 95% predominantly of Pakistani heritage, operating in networks justified by cultural religious attitudes toward non-Muslim and women. Consistent grooming tactics, befriending vulnerable girls, offering drugs and alcohol, taxis, hotels, group abuse, blackmail via recordings, dehumanization, and cross-regional trafficking, deep institutional failures. I gotta say they're part of it, right? It's essentially been institutionalized, and so you remove failure out of it and say institutionalized by UK government, but going by their language, deep institutional failures, police, social services, NHS, schools, and licensing authorities repeatedly ignored evidence, blamed victims, and protected perpetrators due to political correctness and fear of racism claims. Pakistan did negotiate the US-Iran peace deal, right? So give them a pass on. No, come on, man. Okay, continuing here. Political accountability. Successive governments, they say especially Labor, prioritized votes and multiculturalism over child safety, suppressed data and inquiries. It's the entire government. Cultural and theological factors, detailed analysis of Islamic doctrines, supremacy, no fixed consent age, views on captives or non-believers, enabling the crimes within certain communities. So they said, if you're a white girl, you're not a Muslim, you're not practicing Islam, you're fair game. And then their community under Sharia said, hell yeah, they're fair game, right? Survivor impact, severe lifelong physical, psychological trauma, pregnancies, abortions, institutional betrayal, and ongoing lack of justice. Demographic spread, again, documented over 40% of UK districts this was going on. Recommendations for reform. Throw them in the wood chipper. All the government, start with the government and then work your way down to these gangs. No, but the official recommendation for reform, mandatory ethnicity religious recording, new legislation, the CSE Act, deportations, special units, training, accountability for failures, and proactive disruption of networks. Call to action, preserve evidence, pursue prosecutions, including officials. They should be first. They should be first. Learn from failures and address immigration cultural incompatibility to prevent reoccurrence. The inquiry positions this as a national reckoning. We shall see. They do need a national reckoning there, obviously. We shall see. Again, the link to the whole report will be at Weaponized News Substack for those interested in taking that deep, dark dive. Quite horrific. Quite horrific there. Okay, on to Epstein. Epstein survivors respond, and I've seen a bunch of reports out there like, Epstein did kill himself. We promise you 100%. A bunch out there in your Mockingbird media the last couple of days. Epstein killed himself, all right? New York Times says so, all right? Epstein survivors respond, and we went over that New York Times article, a summation of the new book they're selling, right? And so upon this new media attention, specifically out of the New York Times, was it Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan, reporters out of the New York Times, the Epstein survivors issued a statement to them upon all of this new reporting. They say, today on behalf of survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse and trafficking network, we are responding to the release of Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan's book and the reported inclusion of disturbing Epstein-related information that was not made public when it was first known. For survivors, this is not about politics, media competition, publishing, or book sales. This is about justice, information connected to Jeffrey Epstein, his associates, the people who enabled him, and the institutions that protected him belongs in the hands of the survivors, investigators, law enforcement, Congress, and the public. It should never be withheld for months and then revealed as part of a commercial book release. The good liberals at the New York Times are profiteering off the back of the Epstein victims here now. Survivors have already endured decades of silence, delay, sealed records, broken promises, and institutional failure. I'm seeing a trend across America and UK. Institutional failure when it comes to protecting young girls. But we can trust them when they say you need a digital ID to get on the internet because we care about the children, right? That's why it all falls on deaf ears. It's to build out the surveillance state. Is why they want this digital ID, and they're rolling it out in the UK right now. Bullshit. I don't give a damn about these kids. Continuing here. If journalists, publishers, government officials, law enforcement agencies, courts, political institutions, or any other individuals possess Epstein-related information that could help expose the network, identify those who enabled abuse, or bring accountability to survivors, it must be disclosed responsibly and without delay. Survivors are not storylines. Their trauma is not content. Their pursuit of justice should never be timed around a publishing schedule, media rollout, or financial gain. Survivors have waited long enough. There can be no more selective transparency, no more delay, no more profit from survivors' pain while accountability remains out of reach. The truth must come out now. As the Department of Justice continues the Epstein file cover-up here in America. JP Morgan, Google records sought in probe into Epstein's New Mexico ranch. It's a report out of the Wall Street Journal. New Mexico investigators have sent letters to JP Morgan, Google, and more than 24 companies ordering them to lock down records tied to Jeffrey Epstein and some of his associates, a sign of a widening criminal probe into Zorro Ranch there in New Mexico. Ongoing. But then as we continue to report, the state of New Mexico, their quote authorities in justice say, Well, yeah, just report it to the DOJ. Oh, the same guy's covering it up actively right now? Like, couple posts here from the X in regarding this. The shallow state on the X said the fact that the Epstein estate actually paid a settlement to one of the women who alleged that Donald Trump raped her as a minor, and it was paid after Epstein died, as told under oath by Epstein's longtime accountant, should be a more significant story. The fact that Trump said he wasn't ever on Epstein's plane, and now we found out he was, should be a more significant story. The fact that senior officials gathered in the Situation Room to concoct and coordinate an Epstein story cover-up is a significant story and being treated as such. But in light of the rest of his behavior throughout, it should be an end of his presidency. A lot of things should be the end of Trump's presidency, but yet Teflon Don marches on now, doesn't he? Epstein was too much of a narcissist to kill himself, rated Robin on the X posted. He was too much of a narcissist to kill himself. He would have negotiated a deal for naming all the clients and co-conspirators because narcissists always believe they can win. Donald Trump knew that. It wasn't suicide. So back to Epstein killed himself. Did Trump have Epstein whacked in prison? That's kind of where we're at here now. As there's a bunch of reports in your Mockingbird media saying Epstein was plotting to expose Trump, but still couldn't find the dirt. Really? There's a lot of cover out there. They're running a lot of cover. Here's J.D. Vance when asked on ZBS News about the Epstein files.
Mr. Vice President, I also want to ask you about the Epstein files.
Sure.
According to a new book by New York Times reporters, you were the leading voice in the administration to release the Epstein files. There are still more than 2.5 million files that have not been made public. The survivors want them made public. Can you commit right now that you will push to have them made public, even if they are duplicates or there's more redactions?
So we absolutely want to make those documents public, but there are a couple of things. First of all, we have to protect certain victims that can appear in those files. And the second thing, Nora, is some of those files, as I
They dox the victims. They put out naked pictures in the Epstein files of Epstein victims.
understand it, 2.5 million files is a lot, but some of those files, as I understand it, are actually things that are under court seal. So for us to release those files, we need the approval of certain jurisdictions, certain courts. We've actually applied to release files and had the courts say no. So we're going to comply with the law, but we absolutely are committed to full transparency.
What a load of bullshit. They're not. They're covering it up. As per the law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, they're still covering it up. Epstein's suicide happened in federal custody under Bill Barr's protection. The day after the first Lolita Express flight logs with Trump's name were unsealed by the courts. Just saying. And that was a post by Grizzy on the X. News Nation, short report here. We knew nothing. We knew nothing. Bill Gates knew nothing, right?
I didn't know is a defense we're hearing from a lot of people who spend time around sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, but not everyone is buying it.
So here's the issue. A mistake, Bill Gates said he made a mistake. A mistake is running a red light. A grave error of misjudgment is lending money to your deadbeat roommate, not child sexual abuse, not sex trafficking, and not the heinous crimes that have been described here. One of the things that is just frankly not believable is that I didn't see anything, I didn't know. When Bill Gates met Jeffrey Epstein, he was already a convicted sex offender, a registered sex offender. Bill Gates runs one of the hugest Microsoft networks of discovery in the whole world. You can't tell me that one of his team didn't research this, didn't look this person up, and that nobody knew anything.
Bill Gates voluntarily testified in front of the House Oversight Committee in a closed-door hearing last week.
I hope my testimony is helpful to the important work of the committee to find justice for the victims.
Gates has not been charged with any crimes and says meeting Epstein was a grave error in judgment.
He was our doctor during the bad times, right? So, I mean, we got to give him that at least. Yeah, how the hell is Howard Lutnick in the administration? How's he not in jail? Yeah, how the hell is Howard Lutnick running the U.S. Commerce Department? For years, Lutnick downplayed his relationship with Epstein. He claimed he was so disgusted by Epstein that he cut ties back in 2005. Then Epstein files come out. They show Lutnick visited Epstein's private island in 2012, 4 years after Epstein's 2008 sex crime conviction. This past April 1st, just weeks after the House Oversight Committee arranged to question him about Epstein, Lutnick donated $5 million to the Congressional Leadership Fund, the main super PAC for House Republicans and Mike Johnson. The PAC bankrolls the very members who then heard his testimony. It was the first public donation, or it was his first political donation as a sitting cabinet secretary. He gave his closed door deposition May 6th and walked out still holding his job. Even the Republican chairman admitted Lutnick had not been fully truthful about his visits to Epstein Island. How the hell is Lutnick? Well, I think we know. He's a world-class criminal. And he also overestimated the tariffs by 40% on purpose and then bet against them to fail because he knew they would, because he rigged up the whole tariffs. And his firm has made billions of dollars off the back of us because they jacked up the price because of the tariffs, ruled unconstitutional. Howard Lutnick already took the money and ran because he rigged the entire tariff scheme that Trump rolled out to profiteer off the back of everyone. And he has the weird mask that looks like a Howard Lutnick mask, in the dental chairs looks like some type of MK Ultra style fear-based, trauma-based mind control was going on there. As well as we continue to report, Howard Lutnick's got to go. He's got to go. But he's sitting there with laughing, yucking it up with Trump at G7. Beyond the pale, man. Beyond the pale of corruption here. Oh, man, that's some dark stuff we just covered. But that's how this cult, in large part, rules the world through fear-based, trauma-based mind control and all of this abuse. All right, on to the economic section of the show. That's kind of a hard transition, I understand, but well, they're telling us the task force, the entire thing's a fraud. The federal task force led by Mr. Technocracy, J.D. Vance, federal fraud task force, has successfully removed $512 million stolen by fraudsters. The Trump-Vance administration is winning the war on fraud. It's quite laughable because the entire system's a fraud. The unconstitutional Federal Reserve is a fraud and a Ponzi scheme in and of itself. The fiat debt-based monetary system running the world in and of itself is a fraud. So it's quite laughable. But they're getting the low-level fraudsters to show you government's taking care of everything. They're the good guys. Wave your flag. America 250. The American people will no longer tolerate the blatant waste, fraud, and abuse of their hard-earned tax dollars. No state should allow it either. If states allow it, they will suffer the consequences. That's what the Department of Labor had to say. And they put out, well, they reshared this article out of the Washington Examiner. And of course, they make it all political. There's your Democrat governors, big three, right? Pritzker, Newsom, and Holschool, Illinois, California, New York. Sonderling, that's the Secretary of the Department of Labor, threatens to withhold funds from governors over unemployment fraud and waste. And there is a whole lot of unemployment fraud and waste here in California. I could testify personally doing accounting and payroll work in the state. 100% that's going on. A lot of details I don't have time to get into. But yeah, massive. There's massive. During the bat times, I forget even the numbers, billions of dollars in fraud in unemployment claims was exposed here in California. The head of what the hell? I can't remember the name. The head of the department in the state of California just resigned, walked away laughing. And they said it was some scheme that convicts in prison cooked up. And so that scandal went away real quick. But hey, they stole billions of dollars during the bat times, during the lockdowns. And it goes on and on and on and on. Labor Department threatens to withhold funds from governors over unemployment fraud and waste. Well, stop the threats and do it. Yeah, so they're trying to make hay out of this. We're cracking down on fraud, really? Maybe. It looks political to me, but there is a bunch of fraud definitely here in California. I could speak from personal experience running payrolls and seeing it firsthand and living in the state and following the news about it during the bat times, but probably in those other states too, probably every state actually, but they want to make it political. It's those bad Democrats. Federal Reserve had his first meeting today with its new chair, who's a Ron Lauder, head of the World Aardvark Congress, his father-in-law, Kevin Warsh. They're both all up in the Epstein files as well, giant aardvarks. Right? They love it. Warsh announces task forces to overhaul major Federal Reserve operations. Yeah, they're going to bring in the central bank digital currency under another name, as Aaron Day continues to report here now. So they can all grandstand. There'll be no central bank digital currency. Well, they won't have that name, but it'll have the same effect. Or now the Clarity Act, along with these other cryptocurrency acts, which was it the Genius Act, I believe, already passed, and now the Clarity Act is looking to pass through the Congress. And once they get all of their legislation ducks in a row, they're going to roll out central bank digital currency by another name in the name of protecting the children as they line them up for gang rape. That's your government and my government. All right, continuing here, the Federal Reserve leaves interest rates unchanged. Something that came out of the Fed meeting today. Fed Chair Warsh said inflation is well ahead of the 2% goal. You think so? You think so? We're running at like 20% to 30% inflation here over the last year on Main Street, and they rig it up for Wall Street with bullshit economic data. But anybody that has put fuel in their vehicle, bought groceries, or any other staple goods, consumer items that you need to get by day to day can see it. So I don't know who they're lying. I guess they're just lying to themselves at this point. I don't know. Smoking their own fiat currency over there at the Federal Reserve, that's for sure. Illinois' Governor Pritzker has signed a 0.2% tax on crypto transactions into law, including transactions between personal wallets, with the Crypto Council for Innovation calling it the most punitive digital asset tax in the country. He's looking out for the children there in Illinois, right? Sure he is. Another giant criminal, like all of them. We're still above $4 a gallon for the price of a gallon of gasoline here in America, according to AAA national average. Now today, still hanging above that $4 a gallon threshold. We're at $4, and we'll just round it up to 3 cents today. And that's down about a cent from yesterday, so still above that $4 threshold, but it has gone down. It has gone down here now due to the Iran peace talks. Still, driving today, I drove by Arco, and diesel was like $7.79. They're just killing us with the cost of living to freaking barely get by here in California. And we're told that Democrats love it. That's what we're told. Nothing's rigged. All elections are 100% above board. Everything's legit. And the people of California love being in poverty, essentially, here now. And that's what we're told. Democrat voters in the state of California enjoy being in poverty. Who knew? But that's what the state of California tells us. All right, moving on here now to the Brown University Watson School of International and Public Affairs. We almost broke the $60 billion mark here for the consumer cost burden of the Iran war on the American people. We're at 49.8 billion with a B. Let's throw that up there for you. So we're almost breaking $60 billion total consumer cost burden since the beginning of the Iran war on February 28, 2026. And you could see the household cost burden across both diesel and gasoline is now up to $456.35 as the clock just keeps ticking there. Tomorrow, it will break $60 billion total consumer cost burden. The economy is getting bad, so bad. In China, humanoid robots are seen begging on the streets. Robot spotted begging for cash on its knees in the streets of China, allegedly. I don't know. I don't even know if this, I found it a crazy story, so I would report it. I don't, it's out of the UK Daily Star tabloid. I don't know. But what the hell, we'll say it's real. A hard-up humanoid has been spotted begging for cash on its knees on the street. A hard-up humanoid. The AI beggar was filmed pleading with passerbys for change in China's Sichuan province last week after sourcing the donation bowl, a QR code and a sign. There's a little sign the robot had. And so the robot's begging because he can't afford electricity to charge his battery to go about his humanoid robot duties. The machine was identified as Unitree G1 humanoid model. And so the economy's so bad there in China, according to this report, humanoid robots have to beg so they can afford electricity to charge up their battery to go about their Terminator work there in China. Okay, on to UN Agenda 21, according to Grok, Fat Bob out there. I asked the question, where are we at on the implementation of UN Agenda 2030 goals for sustainable development? And this is the answer I got from Weaponized Grok AI. As of mid 2026, we're on June 17th, right? Implementation of the UN's 2030 agenda for sustainable development, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, adopted in 2015, remains significantly off track globally, with only about 4 years left until about 3.5, right? About 3.5 years left until the 2030 deadline. Progress has been uneven, fragile, and insufficient despite some notable gains since 2015. The most recent comprehensive global assessment is the UN's Sustainable Development Goals report from 2025, the 10th edition, which provides the primary benchmark. Key overarching statistics from the 2025 report: only 35% of SDG targets have been reached. Nearly half are progressing too slowly, and 18% are stalled or in reverse. No major goal is fully on track. Conflicts, climate change impacts, geopolitical tensions, economic shocks, record debt burdens, especially in low and middle income countries, and large financing gap, $4 trillion annually for developing countries, are major headwinds. Positive examples exist at national and local levels: expanded electricity access in dozens of countries, disease reductions, allegedly, according to the UN, but global averages mask deep inequalities. I agree, that's true. Regional variations are significant. European Nordic countries, i.e. Finland, Sweden, Denmark, lead overall SDG index rankings. That's mighty white of them, isn't it? As parts of Asia show faster recent progress in some areas, many developing regions lag behind, particularly on poverty, hunger, and climate resilience. Top 10 key points on current status of UN Agenda 2030 goals for sustainable development: persistent extreme poverty and hunger. The closing of the Strait of Hormuz and the Iran war just added a whole bunch to that. Millions of people down the line here now in extreme poverty are going to starve to death because of this and be pushed into further poverty. As we continue to report here, over 800 million people remain in extreme poverty, and a couple million of them are going to starve to death here now. Hunger affects 1 in 12 people globally, with food insecurity rising in many areas due to conflicts, climate shocks, and economic pressures. Progress on zero hunger has reversed in key indicators like obesity rates in some contexts. Grow your victory garden here in America. Healthy gains but gaps remain. SDG 3, significant. The extreme poverty and hunger was SDGs 1 and 2. Health gains but gaps remain, SDG 3, significant reductions in child neonatal mortality, HIV, and malaria since 2015, based on the year 2000 baselines. However, millions still lack universal health care. I'm telling you don't want Rockefeller health care. I know that gets people all triggered. You don't want it. You don't want what they're offering as a panacea of health. You don't want it. It's on you as an individual to take personal responsibility for your own health and not outsource it to some quack doctor that's telling you take 1,000,000 miracles and we got the pill for you. Maternal mortality improvements are too slow. And that's probably about true, but hey, they leave out the fact that all this is on the back of Rockefeller medicine in the West. Educational access improved, but quality learning lags, SDG 4. More children in school, brainwashing them. 110 plus million additional children in school since 2015, narrowing gender gaps and better basic infrastructure. Yet most countries are off track on completion rates, learning outcomes. Get it? Learning outcomes and early childhood education, especially in least developed countries. Slow progress on gender equality, SDG 5. Women hold 27 to 28% of parliamentary seats, up from 22%, and managerial positions have edged up slightly. However, deep disparities remain in unpaid care work. I don't even know what that unpaid care work, that's like being a family and you take care of your underlings, your youngers there. Women do 2.5 to 3 times more. I don't know. Call it nature. I know that we hate the patriarchy, but man. Okay, violence and economic political participation, parity in leadership could take decades more at current rates. Infrastructure and energy advances, SDGs 7 and 9. Electricity access reached 92% globally. Renewables are the fastest growing energy source. Internet use jumped 40% to 68%. Mobile broadband and digital connectivity have expanded rapidly. Challenges include clean cooking fuels and sustainable industrial gaps. Climate and biodiversity crisis, SDGs 13, 14, and 15. 2024 was the hottest year on record, exceeding 1.5 degrees Celsius warming. So maybe that we're just in a simulation. The world ended because we all spontaneously combusted because we passed the threshold that was going to end the world, 1.5 degrees Celsius warning, according to UN experts on climate change. Somehow, some way, we're still here. I guess we're all living in a dream. CO2 levels are at multi-year highs. Biodiversity loss continues. Red list index declines. Ocean and land protection has some local successes, but overall progress is insufficient, or reversing climate-related displacement is high. We have AI data center bunkers to build, surveillance, police state, technocracy to build. We don't need to even care about the environment because they're going to live underground in their bunkers. The rest of us are going to spontaneously combust and have Terminators take care of us. So problem solved there. Raising inequalities and urban challenges, SDGs 10 and 11, inequalities within and between countries persist or widen. Sustainable cities face issues with housing slums and resilience. Over 120 million people displaced, double 2015 levels, exacerbate vulnerabilities. The hell, we love ethnic cleansing, right? Sure we do. Peace, justice, and institutions under strain, SDG 16. Conflicts have worsened with record displacement, reversals noted in areas like press freedom. They're carrying on a genocide of the press over there in Aardvark land, and we have to say it's wonderful or we're anti-septic. That's what they say. They're carrying on a systemic campaign of whacking reporters there in Gaza and in Lebanon. Reversals noted in areas like freedom of the press and corruption perceptions. There's no perception. It's all corrupt beyond our wildest imagination. Strong institutions are seen as foundational but face civic space threats and geopolitical tensions. Financing and partnerships shortfalls, SDG 17. Record debt servicing, I don't know, get rid of central banking, private central banking. I don't know, just an idea, throwing it out there for you guys. Record debt servicing 1.4 trillion in low to middle income countries. Quit running your World Bank IMF scams on third worlders. Just an idea for you guys. Crowds out SDG investments. International cooperation is strained. Data gaps hinder monitoring. Calls for reformed global financial architecture and increased multilateralism. Overall trajectory and priorities. Progress is possible via 6 key transitions: food systems, energy, digital, education, jobs, social protection, climate, biodiversity. Oh, and they never talk about geoengineering, weather manipulation programs either as part of climate change. So we can't have a serious discussion about it until you include those as factors, which countries around the world are using geoengineering. You better believe it. The 2026 high-level political forum and events like the UN Water Conference will focus on specific goals 6, 7, 9, 11, 17. Post 2030 discussions are already gearing up. All resources have to go to the data centers so you can get self-affirmation from your chatbot. On the back end, they're creating kill lists. It's all for the greater good, you see. Bottom line, the UN Agenda 2030 is in a global development emergency phase. What are we going to do? I know. Without a major step up in action, financing, and cooperation, most goals will not be met, though partial gains and momentum in specific areas offer pathways forward. What are we going to do here? America under Trump says, F you, we're doing our own thing. We're building our region of one world government, the Greater North America Project, and we are going to go about our imperial ambitions, and F you, UN. So what are we going to do? A Democrat gets in there, jump right back in the UN and full steam. Agenda 2030. So we could still make it. We'll have 2 years, like a year or something, when the Democrat gets in there in 2028. And so there's still hope, Fat Bob, to fulfill UN Agenda 2030 goals for sustainable development. We just got to vote Democrat. All right. On to significant report here. I do believe China is breaking ground on at world's largest concentrated solar power plant. And so China's going green. The project, China General Nuclear Power, a state-owned atomic and clean energy developer, has kicked off construction at the world's largest concentrated solar power plant in China's northwestern Qinghai province. The project will have a solar collection area of about 3.7 million square meters, consisting of 3 solar tower fields of 1.1 million square meters each and a parabolic thorough field of 400,000 square meters and a molten salt thermal energy storage system with the capacity of over 11.7 million kilowatt hours. This report about the project said. So quite a solar project going on there. China accelerates Shanghai's development as a global financial hub. China has launched a strategic initiative to elevate Shanghai as a premier global financial center and increase the international adoption of the yuan. Top guy at Chinese central bank said earlier today. This plan is designed to facilitate the two-way opening of Chinese financial markets and establish Shanghai as a worldwide hub for yuan asset allocation and risk management. To support these goals, the Central Bank of China will establish repurchase facilities for overseas central banks, allowing them to utilize assets such as Chinese government bonds in repurchase agreements. 6 major Chinese lenders, including Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, and CITIC Bank, are authorized to conduct these trades within the Shanghai Free Trade Zone. It's a soft power transfer to the West at the very top levels of all of the geopolitical games that they play. China announces aid package. They're coming in with a soft hand. Good cop, bad cop. Trump says we'll bomb your civilization into the Stone Age. China says here's some aid. China announces aid package to Iran and Lebanon. China will deliver a fresh round of humanitarian aid to Iran and Lebanon to assist with economic recovery and post-war construction. They're still bombing Lebanon. We're getting a little ahead of the game, possibly here now. Considering the real situation in the relevant countries, China has decided to offer humanitarian aid to Iran and Lebanon to further assist the people there in recovery and reconstruction, as well as improving their economy and livelihood. Foreign Minister spokesman Lin Jian of China announced today. China's offering humanitarian aid. We're offering to bomb you. So I'm sure the Lebanese and Iranians love being bombed, as reported in U.S. Mockingbird media. And I believe Trump also made that statement along the path of war here now. So by all American accounts, they prefer being bombed to financial aid from China. All right, on to the meme of the day from the Department of War. Give the enemy nightmares. That is, quite horrific there. From the Department of War, it's giving me nightmares. Another meme of the day here out of the Department of War. In a fast-changing AOR, stale data is a risk. An Air Force innovator automated the 72-hour commands weather briefing using GenAI.mil API script, cutting hours of manual work to deliver live minute accurate forecast. So they're faster forecast, better decisions there. So they're upping the weather. How I read that between the lines is they're upping the weather warfare game there out of the Department of War. The boss meme out of the Department of War. There you go. Trust in Trump. Don't be a panicking. Have fun trying to afford groceries. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth posted this. American soldiers first. For the American soldier, always. And again, per Smedley Butler, war is a racket. Yeah, they're still whacking as there's a halfway public drug war going on in Mexico, Central and South America. We whacked another alleged narco trafficking boat here now yesterday, posted by U.S. Central Command. They say, U.S. Central Command says yesterday, at the direction of Southcom Commander Donovan, Joint Task Force Southern Sphere conducted a lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by designated terrorist organizations. Intelligence confirmed the vessel was transiting along known narco trafficking routes in the Eastern Pacific and was engaged in narco trafficking operations. One male narco terrorist was killed during this action, and there were 2 male survivors. You know, it would be nice if instead of just whacking all these guys, I think we're over 200 now. These are extrajudicial assassinations by all definitions of murder, not American justice, as we're sold, is law and order here in America. We're supposed to be above the barbarians, they tell us. And we just murder you, and, well, Intel said you're a narco trafficker. On the back of possibly killing some human trafficking victims as part of the trafficking payload of drugs and human cargo on these boats. That is also. And whacking survivors of the first whack job. Was that from a whack job back last September as well? So it's just like, yeah, we just whack you. You're a bad guy. Prove it. Well, we're the government and trust us, keeping you safe from drugs. We care about the children. Here's the latest whack job by U.S. Southern Command. Wowzers. They say 2 people survived. I don't know how you survive that. But according to U.S. Southern Command, 2 people survived that. 1 killed. Let's see here now. They say they got a bunch of marijuana. I don't even know why you're trying to smuggle marijuana into this country. I guess some places it's still illegal. California, it's like whatever, dude. You know what I mean? It's legal medically, illegal recreationally. Maybe I see it different than places where in the United States where it's still illegal. Maybe you can smuggle in illegal marijuana and make some money. I don't know. Probably you're not going to make much here in California. Anyhow, U.S. Southern Command says that they seized 3,960 pounds of marijuana and 2 Ecuadorian suspects attempting to smuggle said marijuana into America. Make no damn sense to me, but I don't see how the risk of smuggling marijuana into America is just simply not worth it when they're whacking narco trafficking drug boats every other freaking day. I don't know. That's what they report, though. They didn't whack them, and they busted them and got the marijuana there. Somebody needs to tell Ecuador the marijuana drug profiteering games, it's up. It's not worth risking your life over. Okay, continuing here. Where are we at? Some more reports. I think we got to skip due to the interest of time here. I had some more reports queued up about the covert war there on drugs in Central and South America. We'll save that for tomorrow due to the interest of time. I see we're past the 2-hour mark. We have covered quite a bit. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button. Push that notification button. Go to weaponizednews.com/shop as we're past the 2-hour mark here now. Patron our store and give us some support. Support independent reporting and analysis brought to you here by Weaponized News. Streaming live 5 days a week, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. Give me that like, share, subscribe, push that notification button, and patron the store. Get your Weaponized News holograph sticker and other items there. The links are in the description below this video. All right, let's wrap up the last half of the show here, or last section of the show, actually. Ukraine and Russia, they're still bombing the hell out of each other. It's quite horrific. US-EU authorized production of deep strike missiles inside Ukraine. And so that's not good. A Ukrainian UAV hit a bus carrying 44 passengers, including 28 Belarusian children. And some people out there are asking, is this in retaliation by Aardvark Land for the transgression by Lukashenko, president of Belarus, where he called out Aardvark Land yesterday? Was this retaliation for his transgressions, whacking a bus of 28 Belarusian school children? I don't know, but kind of looks that way. So Aardvark's got all pissed off at Lukashenko, president of Belarus, puppet of Russia. He said yesterday, Aardvark Land needs to be more careful and cautious. They've already earned such a rating in the world community by bombing Gaza. Even in history, people are looking at what kind of Holocaust is this? What Holocaust are we talking about? Right? And so I know the 6 million made up hoax number and the rest of their BS from World War II. He basically called them on it backhandedly yesterday in regards to they're carrying out their own genocide now. So save your outrage against the Nazis, because you guys are acting just like the Nazis against the Palestinians here now. So they got all pissed off. Here's the reply by Aardvark Land to Belarus presidents. They say the remarks made by the president of Belarus, a country that knows too well the horrors of the Holocaust committed on its own soil, in his interview with Al Arabiya, are unacceptable and deeply disturbing. I know. That's why. Where's your condemnation of Trump, Aardvark Land Foreign Ministry? We're waiting for it, bro. Any comparison between the Holocaust of the Aardvark people and Aardvark Land's just war against terrorism must be unequivocally rejected. Equally appalling is the revile of vile, outdated antiseptic conspiracies that should have long been consigned to history. Bro, they killed officially over 73,000 Palestinians in Gaza so far. And the death toll is a lot higher than that. But hey, we're waiting for the outrage against Trump for his transgressions, criticizing the IDF essentially now whacking of the Lebanese, right? Ghalibaf, Speaker of Iranian Parliament, calls for Iran-China partnership to deepen economic cooperation. So the boss, Donald Trump, is driving a bunch of countries, for obvious reasons, Iran, but a bunch of other countries into the arms of China with his imperial, I'm the boss attitude and policies. Good job, jerk. The Egyptian military, who Trump loves their president, said he fell in love in a hotel with him, right? We played that clip earlier for Pride Month. Apparently, Trump is faking gay. But seriously, the Egyptian military attacked artisanal gold miners in a border area in northern Sudan, killing at least 7 people and injuring dozens of others. And there's video of the attack on these gold miners. Sudan Tribune reported that the attack targeted mining sites in the remote border region. The circumstances of the attack and the casualty toll remain unclear. Maybe they felt like bombing him because Trump is talking to the president. I don't know. Crazy. Syria unprepared to attack Lebanon despite U.S. pressure. Yeah. Dude might be former top terrorist, now head of Syria, but he's not stupid, right? He's not going to be used as a proxy army for America and Aardvark land to attack Hezbollah. Syrian president and former al-Qaeda chief Ahmed al-Shara said Syria is unprepared and unwilling to launch a military offensive against Lebanon despite growing U.S. pressure. And that was reported by Aardvark Land Broadcasting Corporation CAN yesterday. Somebody be a proxy army for us, bro. But yeah, you can't square that circle with the Muslims, right? We're attacking other Muslims, even though they're different factions, right? On behalf of U.S. and Aardvark land, because Muslims? What? Because Islam? You know what I mean? Like, what? What, bro? Yeah, so he just can't do it. He's smart enough to know that. The backlash would be too great. If he did, he'd probably face being overthrown by Muslims that are in Syria and the surrounding areas, right? And so he's trying to get in there, cement his power, get things going in Syria, and so on and so forth. And they got a bunch of their own domestic problems. And so not quite up to be a U.S. Aardvark land proxy army against Hezbollah in Lebanon there. Aardvark land, they're setting up a proxy in Somaliland to go ahead and have a base, right? They need a base to fight the Houthis in Yemen. And so they're working on cementing that Somaliland base. They say they've been working with Somaliland since the founding of America. It knows for, I don't know, last 20 years or something like this. And so that's what it looks like. They're trying to set up, this base. So they have some type of way to fight back against the Houthis there in Yemen, strategically through Somaliland. Aardvarkland and Somaliland have a long-standing friendship based on shared interests, domestic or democratic values, that's quite laughable, and a commitment to security and stability. Department of War there out of Aardvarkland, Cat said, when talking about establishing a base there in Somaliland. And I believe they're trying, if they haven't already, an embassy and all the routine to try to legitimize Somaliland. Okay, Elon Musk's Grok AI helped Pentagon launch attacks on 2,000 targets in Iran within 4 days. So they've weaponized. Elon Musk, world's first trillionaire, humanitarian that just wants to help people with brain injuries, paraplegics walk again and do the work of Jesus according to his own talks. Well, while he's not doing the work of Jesus, he's helping the United States via his Grok AI create targets to bomb in Iran. The Pentagon has officially admitted for the first time that Elon Musk's Grok AI was used to launch over 2,000 munitions at 2,000 distinct targets inside Iran, all within a 96-hour window during Operation Epstein, Operation Epic Fury, according to court filings reviewed by the UK Independent. So the great humanitarian philanthropist who cares so much about the global population collapse helped kill some Iranians there. And we do appreciate the efforts out of South African Mr. America, Elon Musk. Federal prosecutors argued the legal challenge threatens American national economic and energy security by seeking to shut off the power supply for artificial intelligence innovation that supports the Department of War's military operations. They're tucking it all under national security. So a Terminator will come to see you in the near future protesting these surveillance data bunker systems. And again, we need to also take a look at very underreported and very underlooked at Elon Musk's Boring Company. Obviously, we don't have time today to do that, but everybody out there, we need to take a second, third, fourth, fifth, seventh look, a 33rd look at Elon Musk's Boring Company and what all underground cities, complexes are they building. That's another part of all of this technocracy, isn't it now? Pentagon AI chief Carmen Stanley testified that Grok is now utilized within Project Maven, the military's targeting initiative. So they're using Grok AI to create kill lists. Utilizing a $200 million Department of War contract, Claude, that's out of Anthropic, was used to propose and prioritize hundreds of strikes, coordinates, enabling the U.S. military to hit, over 1,000 targets in Iran during the first 24 hours of the war on the Islamic Republic. Digital infrastructure has become the operational core of modern warfare, where cloud systems and AI platforms facilitate real-time battlefield decision-making. Tehran now categorizes major technology firms as strategic nodes rather than neutral entities. Iran's media has identified nearly 30 regional facilities operated by companies including Amazon, Google, Microsoft as potential targets within the hostile operational environment. Remember the reports that they whacked the radars and then rain came back to Iran? Yeah, they're not dumb. They know about technocracy there. They know about technocracy in Iran. These sites provide the digital architecture necessary for intelligence gathering and drone coordination. This fusion is exemplified by Aardvark Land's Project Nimbus, which utilizes cloud-based AI for automated surveillance and the central role of NVIDIA hardware in training massive models for satellite imagery analysis and autonomous drone navigation by integrating private sector capabilities into defense planning. That's your corporate fascist government. It's essentially one in the same. The U.S. and its allies have turned corporate networks into functional extensions of adversarial power, exposing global digital infrastructure to direct geopolitical confrontation. What a friggin' nightmare. And back to how do we square this circle for peace with Iran? I don't know. I truly don't know. PBS reports Iran says the deal to end the war with the U.S. requires Aardvark Land to withdraw from Lebanon. As we continue to report, they say they're not going to withdraw from Lebanon. Aardvark Land preparing for collapse of U.S.-Iran deal, orders military to develop target banks. Their fingers on the trigger, and they're saying get ready for the next round in the continuing operation of building out the greater Aardvark Land project, i.e. seizure, occupation, and genocide of the Lebanese here now. So they're trying their damnedest to derail peace with Iran. It's ongoing the last 24 hours. Aardvark Land warplanes carry out attacks near southern Lebanese villages. Here's some video and stills. Yeah, they're blowing the place up as per usual. As per usual, there. We have more footage here. And nothing to worry about. They're just bombing Lebanon. That's video footage from southern Lebanon in the last 24 hours. Here's you can see they're leveling the joint. Some still images now. See right there? They're leveling these leveling the joint. This area is probably next. That has some buildings still standing. Literally leveling the joint per Gaza, creating an apocalyptic hellscape there in southern Lebanon. Reports emerging of a serious Hezbollah attack on Aardvark Land forces in southern Lebanon. And that's the way it's going to be. The back and forth. In the last 24 hours, reports of 10 injured Aardvark Land soldiers in ongoing fighting between Hezbollah and the IDF in southern Lebanon. There's more images of them leveling. Let's watch watch this report on the ground there from Courtney Manu. Hope they don't whack this brave reporter. I'm sure she's on some type of kill list.
Hi, I'm reporting to you from the city of Nabatea. Despite the new ceasefire or ceasefire within a ceasefire, whatever this is, being in effect, the Israeli army has violated it almost 100 times at this point, conducting airstrikes and artillery shelling in this area, as you can see behind me. 4 people yesterday were killed and 4 people were kidnapped by the Israeli army. And again, a couple of days ago, my friend Hadi Hittite was targeted and struck by an Israeli drone. He was attacked not far from here where the smoke is billowing from. I saw his x-rays last night. His body's full of shrapnel and he's lucky to be alive. As someone who lived through the last ceasefire period, I'm not sure why anyone thinks this time is going to be any different. I hope that I'm wrong. I would like nothing more than to be an out-of-work war correspondent, because this is exhausting. And Americans, your tax dollars are paying for this.
And we showed that other reporter dude that she's talking about there, her friend took a bunch of shrapnel, had a big old wound on his leg that had to get stitched up. Targeting journalists is a systemic campaign and public health in southern Lebanon. As we continue to report, Iranian army warns Aardvark land of severe response over dozens of violations in Lebanon. There's no ceasefire. Why? I mean, what is it all for? Who are you fooling? Lebanon government, Aardvark land meet up. Yeah, there's ceasefire. And then they go out and shoot somebody. Like, come on. Everybody can see what's going on here in reality. On paper, there's a ceasefire within a ceasefire, like she's saying. The latest ceasefire was on the back of the last ceasefire. They're stacking bodies, bro. Come on. What is all this? It's nonsense. So you can put out a headline. There's a ceasefire. Bang. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's a setup to try to lure more victims. Well, there's a ceasefire. That could be it. Like, if we say there's a ceasefire, we get the headlines, the news reports, and then they go back home. Because obviously people want to go back home to southern Lebanon where they've been over 1 million Lebanese had to evacuate, i.e. ethnic cleansed out of their homes. Maybe they're like, if we put out the ceasefire headline, they'll go back home, we whack them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get it, because you're not fooling anybody, because it's self-evident. We have a ceasefire. Boom. Come on, man. There's no ceasefire. There's one on paper. There's not one in reality on the street, because they're still whacking people. Same with Gaza. There's no ceasefire. The genocide in Gaza is continuing. Gaza's Ministry of Health announced earlier today that 2 Palestinians were killed and 4 others injured in the past 24 hours. And so now since the ceasefire, October 11, 2025, we're now over 1,000 dead Palestinians, 1,005 dead Palestinians, 3,157 wounded, and 784 bodies have been recovered from the rubble. There's no ceasefire. Like, what? I don't get what's the point. It's on the paper for news headlines, I guess, and they got a paper. Like, here's the ceasefire, bro. Boom. I guess that's what they're like. Come here, Lebanese, Palestinian. Here's our ceasefire. And they're like, oh, yeah, let me see that. Boom. Right? I mean, that's what this is amounting to. Maybe that's it. It's just to set them up to get whacked easier. Everybody can see what's going on here. Your ceasefire means jack, because you're not abiding by the ceasefire. You're continuing the massacres. Anybody interested, I'll post the links, all the data, the breakdowns, all the different places. It's just all horrific. The genocide continues in Gaza. Oh, here's some video of the bombing refugees in tents. At least 2 Palestinians were killed and 6 others wounded in a deliberate Aardvark land airstrike on the coast of Kianis in southern Gaza. Here's a short clip of that. Bombing refugees in tents.
يا الله يا شهداء يا الله يا شهداء يا الله يا اخوان استهداف الان على بحر استهداف الان على بحر خان يونس تعال ابو حميد تعال شهداء يا اخوان من وين الشهداء دار الشحن.
Hell, that wasn't even a tent. That was like a beach umbrella. So you're chilling there on the beach trying to, not be a hateful bigot. And they whack you there in southern Gaza. Bombing Palestinians sitting underneath beach umbrellas there. Bombing refugees in tents. Aardvark land terror traps 4 children in southern Lebanon. They're putting out fake soccer balls. See, this is why you shouldn't like soccer. They put out this soccer ball for little kids to go play with. Turns out it's a bomb. Scattered munition bomb. They're putting out fake soccer balls that are bombs to blow up Lebanese children. Obviously a war crime. Let's see here. Yep. Continued terrorism there by ultra-Zionist settlers in the occupied West Bank. One of their favorite acts of terrorism is arson. They targeted a mosque there in the occupied West Bank for arson. Here's some of the video of the ultra-Zionist settlers in the occupied West Bank burn their mosque there. The Jil Jali, village of Jil Jali, north of Ramallah in the occupied West Bank.
شباب وينكم يا شباب المستوطنين ولعوا الجامع تعالوا.
Ben Gvir replaces prison inspectors with families of killed aardvarks to increase pressure on Palestinian detainees. Like every day they come up and it's reported a new level of evil. So they got to be sitting around in their meetings brainstorming what's the next level of evil we can one up the last level of evil we did to these people. Certainly appears that way. How do you come up with this stuff? And who would even want to do that? I guess they want revenge. They want revenge for their dead relatives. And they have it in their heart anyway, right? If they're real Zionists now, don't they? Yeah. So more abuse there to be suffered at the hands of families of dead Aardvark soldiers now being watching over Palestinian detainees. What could go wrong? And then finally, trigger warning. We got some Aardvark on Aardvark crime here. Thousands of ultra-Orthodox Haredi protesters gather outside Prison 10 in central Aardvark land following the arrest of a draft evader from their community. More than 150 buses transported protesters to the prison. Police were present and clashes occurred with police using excessive force against demonstrators. So where's the IDF and all the other groups crying about this? There's a whole bunch of them with the big hats, the Orthodox hats, right? There's a whole bunch of them. Where's the outrage about this? Where is the outrage about this? Aardvark on Aardvark crime. Right there. ADL, you seeing this? Do something about it. All right, friends, that's all the reporting we have for today. Have they launched major missiles anywhere yet? No? Iran International headlines, Trump, Peshkin sign Iran-U.S. Memorandum of Understanding. Trump weakened Iran and opened diplomacy. Senator Schmidt said. Sure. Iran will be judged by actions, not words, under MOU, Vance says. Trump's signature is no guarantee, Iran says. U.S. lawmaker urges transparency on Iran MOU. Again, how do they get all this to fly with the continue attacks on Lebanon? I just don't get it. But we shall see. Let's pray for peace. Yeah, so that's the big news. Trump and Iran president signed MOU to end war and reopen Strait of Hormuz. We shall see. We shall see. They signed it. They're going through the motions. Going through the motions here now. All right, friends. That's all the reporting I have. Thank you for tuning in on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. We covered quite a bit there. Let me go to the Odysee channel first. Check out if we have a chat over there. We do have a little bit of a chat. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee and chatting it up. Shout out to Highland, Crema, Pink Vegas, Huffman, John. Thank you guys for tuning in on the Odysee and keeping that chat lively. Kevlar underwear. Might need some. Highland said, I remember when diesel was the future. It's still the future, but it costs you $8 a gallon over here in California. That's the future, is to price you out of transport, right? Unless you're in their slave battery powered vehicles. Any independent transportation is frowned upon. Yeah, Highland, tell them 13 watching and only 4 likes. Give me some more likes. We did get some more. Thank you very much, Highland, for that in the comment section. Let's see. No, the aardvarks are acting like the Nazis as characterized by Aardvark Hollywood. Yeah. I think Ford made a hemp car in the 40s. The body was somehow made of hemp and was said to be stronger than steel. Yeah. And I can't see it resting either. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot going on with hemp that America knew about before a Rockefeller oligarchy fully was able to take over society here. There were many other options for many other things, but hey, everything has to be petroleum based, tightly controlled, because freedom in America for Rockefeller oligarchs. Pink says they worship Satan. Yeah. Yeah. Huffman says, remember, if you're for equal rights, you're anti-septic. Yeah. Yeah, they're targeting children. They're putting out little soccer balls that are actually bombs. Let's see, John says Trump will weasel out of the agreement. They say he only converted in 2017, but I am inclined to think he is crypto. Yeah, I'd never forget his mentor in New York since the 60s, 70s is Roy Cohen, right? And so we should not forget about that and see it through the proper lens of context about what is all going on in New York with Trump hotels led by Roy Cohen, right? All right, guys, thank you for tuning in on the Odysee and keeping that chat lively and cordial. Appreciate it very much. Thank you for tuning in on Facebook, X, Bitchute, Kick, Substack, Rumble, and YouTube. Let's take a look at the Rumble and YouTube chat there. Let's see. 2 million, Duke says. Yeah, I'm just jumping in. I have no idea what the context is, so I'll pass there. We're talking about Vietnam. Fat Bob says 58,000, mostly white youth, were simply destroyed. Yeah, poor white boys. They killed some blacks there too, but yeah, majority white. In the Vietnam, shout out to Denver. Shout out to Duke on the YouTube. Shout out to Fat Bob. That is not true. They somehow, nobody bodies if kids would. Yeah, if you're going to troll, at least be able to write proper English. That's one requirement we have of trolling this channel is please at least write in proper English so we can read your hate. Let's see here. Big Daddy meets Baghdaddy. That's funny. Fat Bob has the jokes. Oh, he's the boss now, right? He says, I'm the boss. And they literally put that on loop for an hour on the White House X account. Remember what Joe Kent stated, Taff on the YouTube, all wars in Middle East are fought for Aardvark land. It's pretty self-evident, isn't it? What's the cost of non-nuclear terrorists? We win. I guess they pay an army of trolls to go around and push nuke propaganda. I guess. Do you realize how your country is hated in Europe. Alice on the YouTube. No, I didn't. Until you told me there. Thank you, Alice. When is Europe going to send us their money? Trump MAGA rules, Cole says on the YouTube. Trump is a sex pest. That Bob says driving to the mall box is now like $40 trip. Yeah. Shout out to Pamela on the Rumble. Some pretty good chats going back and forth there, I guess. Quite a bit of chats, actually. Mac on the alleged European end. Yeah. Moving hands like Bernie. What? Oh, man. Oh, man. Yeah, where's Congress? Non-existent. Exactly. We already know who they are. There you go. There you go, White House. Quite a few comments there. Mark, only God knows the time. I got an exactly, Sam, from Denver. Oh, man. I don't even know what the context is, but I'll take it exactly. Magic 8 Ball says likely. Denver says I'm late was gardening. See? Carrie's a good example of what we should all be doing. I have some gardening to do as well here, as it's not dark yet, but it is very hot where I'm at here in Fresno, California. I do believe it was less than 100 today. I don't know. It's 100 degrees all summer here. Anyway, you got to keep your garden watered well. There you go. Denver called it. He said, my first interview on Weaponized News, I said, American imperialism is intended to drive all other nations into Bry and Pax Eurasia at least 2 years ago. True. Shout out to Plutonium, Illinois. You guys just got a crypto tax over there in Illinois, 0.2%. on crypto transactions. I'm sure we'll get it here in California next, and probably the whole rest of the country. Antiseptic Muslim lover. Really? I don't even know if they're talking to me or somebody in the chat. Did you hear the gang rape report? Plutonium, give me $2. Thank you. Shout out to Plutonium there. Illinois. Illinois. No, it's Illinois. I get it. Thank you very much, Plutonium there. And watch out for that crypto tax. I'm sure coming to California soon, right? They're from Pritzker. It was about Trump, USA driving the rest of the world into the arms of China. Boom. It's certainly shaping up that way, isn't it? Because we're in a new era, building a new world order, as they continue to tell us, as we continue to report here now. And yeah, soft power transfer to China via Trump. Says, we'll bomb you into the Stone Age. China says, here's some humanitarian aid, friends. Which side are people going to pick? I know they're bigots, haters, antiseptics, all the rest of the nonsense. Are you going to pick somebody bombing you or somebody offering offering you a loaf of bread? I know it's tough in this insane world to make that decision, but it seems self-evident, right? Okay. All right, friends. Thank you guys for tuning in on this Wednesday edition of Weaponized News. As always, do your own research, peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Wednesday evening. And we'll be back here on Thursday for more Weaponized News. Have a great rest of your evening.